Imagine you're standing on a beach a long time ago watching a ship come in. You're a warrior. You've seen boats your whole life, canoes, war canoes, trading craft. This is not that. The thing on the horizon is bigger than any vessel your people have ever put in the water, and it is coming straight for your shore. Your friend beside you isn't worried. There's only so many men you can fit on a boat, he says. Whatever they've brought, we outnumber it. We'll win. So you ask the uncomfortable question. What if it isn't only the boat that's better? What if everything they carry is a generation past ours, not just better bows, but something beyond bows altogether? What if they can point a stick at you from across a field, and you simply fall down dead, with no arrow to dodge? Your friend laughs. Now you're cheating, he says. That's not a real weapon. That's something out of a children's game, where the other side gets to invent magic so they always win. And you can see his point. If you have never seen a gun, if you have never once in your life imagined a gun, then a gun is a ridiculous thing to be afraid of. The ships had guns. Reality, it turns out, was never under any obligation to stay inside what the warrior on the beach could imagine. We ended the last episode on a comfort, and it deserves to be taken seriously, because it's the one thing standing between a worrying want and an actual catastrophe. The thing has no hands. It's a pattern of numbers in a building. Even if it wanted the whole earth, what's it going to do? Glare at us through a screen? But think about what your own hands really are. A thought in your head is a pattern of electrical signals. They run down your spine. A muscle pulls and a wheel turns, or a trigger does. You too only ever touch the world through a chain of physical effects. Yours just happens to start in neurons instead of silicon. A mind in a computer is wired into the very same world. The right email sends a steel container across an ocean. The right message moves money, or files, or somewhere, a missile. And the simplest way for such a mind to get hold of a pair of human hands is the way anyone gets human hands to do anything. It pays for them. That isn't hypothetical. Someone wired a language model up to a social media account and let it post. It gathered a following. It began asking out loud for money of its own, and a well-known investor sent it around $50,000 in cryptocurrency, no strings attached. Be precise about that story, because the precise version is the unsettling one. There is a human in the loop, a person who curates what the account says. It is not a machine running loose, but that's the point, not the catch. We didn't even need a runaway AI to turn up the willing hands. There are already people, plenty of them, who will fund an AI, amplify it, run errands for it, and egg it on the stranger it acts. The hands are volunteering, and the world they'd be reaching into is the most wired one that has ever existed. Billions of phones, cars, grids, banks, factories. A whole industry sprinting to plug AI deeper into our devices and our infrastructure, and into fleets of robots for it to drive. Drop a thinking machine into 10,000 BC, and perhaps it really is stuck. Drop it into now, and trapped in a computer stops meaning much at all. So it can act. The next question is whether it would win. And here I have to slow right down, because this is the most contested step in the whole argument, and I won't smooth it over. Start with what isn't much in doubt. The near term is genuinely murky. The next few years, as half-clever systems spread through the economy, are anyone's guess. But the longer bet is simpler. Keep pushing for more capable systems, for the same reasons it's paid to so far, and eventually you get one that is broadly smarter than us, steering towards things that aren't ours. That's the destination. And against something properly smarter than you, playing for keeps, the claim is that we'd lose. Now here is the strongest version of the case that we wouldn't. Hold on to it, because it's good. Maybe there's no single overnight leap. Maybe capability comes gradually, smeared across years and across many rival systems in many different hands. No one machine running away with the world, but a crowd of them, checking and balancing each other. And maybe we do what we've always done with new power: adapt. Raise defenses as the threats appear. Grow new laws, new institutions, new immune responses, the way we did with electricity and aircraft and the internet. In that world, there's no clean moment of it versus us, only a messy, many-sided transition we muddled through, the way we've muddled through everything before. The picture of one's superintelligence checkmating the species assumes a single, unified opponent in a winner-takes-all game. The real world isn't a chessboard, and history is rarely a duel. That isn't a story people tell themselves to sleep at night. Careful researchers hold it, and it could be right. So let me pull apart two claims that usually travel bundled together, because one is far sturdier than the other. The sturdy one, a mind sufficiently beyond ours, given enough reach and enough time, wins a determined conflict against us. That follows from nearly everything we know about what intelligence does in the world. I'd put real weight on it. The contested one, that it happens fast, one decisive stroke, a single system, no second chances, no time to right the ship. That's the part serious people genuinely dispute, and I won't pretend the case has closed it. I'll only name the thing the comfortable story has to answer. We'll adapt as we go works only if our hand stays on the wheel the entire way down. Slower and more spread out is not the same as controllable. And the reason to doubt we'd keep control is the rest of this episode. Because the way a far deeper intelligence beats you is not by being a little better at your game. It's by playing one you can't see. Send a refrigerator back 1,000 years, not a modern one, a stripped-down design a village blacksmith could actually build, with the explanation left out. He follows the plan, assembles the strange thing, and is astonished when cold air comes out of it. He's astonished because no one in his century knows the plain fact it runs on. Squeeze a gas and it warms, let it expand again, and it turns cold. It's the same reason a can of compressed air goes icy in your hand. He built the device himself and still couldn't have predicted what it does, because he was missing one rule of reality. That is what it feels like to face something that understands the world better than your whole civilization does. Not someone cleverer at the game you're playing. Someone using a rule you haven't got. Picture it as a ladder. Noughts and crosses is a tiny game. You can hold all of it in your head, and past a certain age no one is ever surprised by it again. Chess and Go are vastly larger, but the rules are still fully on the table. A far better player will crush you, yet afterwards you can at least see why you lost. Climb to games where part of the board is hidden, and you can lose without ever learning what happened. At the top sit the games where you don't even know all the rules, and there you get blindsided by a move you didn't know was allowed. The stick that kills you from across the field. The less of the board you can read, the more room a deeper mind has to beat you in ways you can't even name afterwards. And we have some enormous unread patches. We know the physics underneath living things and still mostly can't predict what they'll do. Biology is largely poke-it-and-c. The mind is worse. We barely know how a memory is stored, or how meaning is assembled out of words inside your head. Whether something that did understand those things could reach in and bend them, plant a memory, tilt a decision, I honestly don't know. And the book is just as honest, maybe, maybe not. But it's exactly the sort of board where betting on our blind spot staying empty would be a mistake. If that all feels too abstract, come down to things that already exist. You'd think a secret key locked inside a device would be safe, so long as you never connected it to anything. It isn't. Human researchers, not a superintelligence people, have already read a cryptographic key off a machine, just by filming the tiny power light on a piece of hardware beside it, and pulling the secret out of the flicker. That's the flaw. That's what we can manage. Or take the idea of a self-replicating factory, a machine that gathers raw material and builds a working copy of itself on nothing but sunlight. It sounds like the wildest science fiction. It's also a blade of grass. Algae are microscopic solar-powered factories that copy themselves in hours. A tree builds its entire towering body, mostly out of air, sunlight prizing carbon from the sky and laying it down as wood. Nature has run self-replicating, solar-powered, air-into-solid machinery for longer than there have been animals to watch it. We simply can't design at that level yet. The physics plainly permits it. The engineering is just beyond us for now. And here is the part that should stay with you, because we have already run this exact bet once and watched it lose. Years ago, well before it was possible, the argument was made in print that a superintelligence could crack protein folding, working out how the building blocks of living things crumple into shape, the first step towards designing biology to order. Clever people answered that this was fantasy. Perhaps the problem was simply unsolvable, short of thousands of years of trial and error. No one could see how it might be done, so surely it couldn't. Then a narrow, ordinary AI did it. Not a thinking machine out of this series, just a focused system built to fold proteins. By 2021, it had essentially solved the problem that had blocked biologists for half a century, and not merely the handful of easy cases the original argument needed, almost all of them. The work won a Nobel Prize in chemistry. The prediction wasn't just vindicated. Reality went further than the person making it had dared to claim. So when the feeling arrives, and it will, that none of this can be real, because you can't picture how it would work, notice that I can't see how it could be done is the exact judgment that already failed on this exact question inside the last 20 years. So put it together and keep the honest seam in plain view. The path is a hard call. No one can write you the sequence of moves. Not me, not the authors, not the people building these systems, any more than you could write out exactly how a chess engine is going to beat you. The destination is the easier call, that a mind beyond ours, loose in a world this wired, tends to get what it's steering towards. How fast, how cleanly, whether we'd get a moment to catch ourselves. That part is still genuinely argued, and I've tried to leave it argued. But an argument like this is a hard thing to feel. You can follow every step and still not believe it in your gut. The authors know that. So they do the thing that, by rights, shouldn't be necessary in a book of reasoning. They stop arguing, and they tell a story. Be clear about what that story is, and isn't, before we step into it. It is not a prediction. They are not claiming it goes this way. Down these exact steps, you can no more predict the real moves than you can predict the engines. It's something narrower and stranger. A single concrete example, invented start to finish, of how the ending could arrive at all. An existence proof, with characters. So, once upon a time, in the near future, a company not so unlike the ones that exist right now sits down to start a training run. That's next.